Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Warcraft News. There really is something for everyone this week. We have got some sexy new armor to show off. We've got the curious inclusion of the Scarlets in a bit of an odd place. Then Blizzard are kicking up a bit of a stir with damage variance, so slipping in a bit of RNG from the past into the game now, which has got some split opinions. There's then new Conduit developments and even more Elune lore that I think will be quite interesting indeed. Now, there's only a few days left in this month, so if you're interested in getting this month's Patreon loot from us, then, well, now's the time. Oh yeah, there's also a sticker that I don't have on me right now. So, it's a chunky month. Number one, the Warlock class pin. Second, the Tirnanog special. So if you want some Irish lore, and that's the same lore from
big old
our
giant
country that actually inspired Ardenweald, things like the Winter Queen are kind of from us, then hey, you might like that. And then, of course, I mean, come on, if you like some Ratchet and Clank, you know, the sort of junkyard aesthetic, then, I mean, that's one to have up around your desk as well.
It's like literally a Volpira in Mechagon. I never even thought of that, but yeah, it's the exact same as Ratchet and Clank. Yeah, you're about right. Ratchet? No, not Ratchet. It was actually a good game.
So, thanks for all your support, and with that said, let's get into the news. Alright, we'll start off light with some sexy new armor. Okay, previous builds introduced the legendary armor set.
Two-handed sword. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Look how long it is. Jesus, man. Longer, yes, you're right. Longer is always better. Keep that in mind. Two-handed mace. Oh, shit, dude. Look at that, man. And I like how they're focusing on just the plate armor, because that's what really matters. Wait, yo, the polearm is fucking awesome. This is probably one of my favorite polearms I've ever seen. This is fucking awesome. Holy shit. Wow, it should be longer? Maybe a little bit longer, yeah. Oh, man. Look at that fucking staff. Dude, that's like a staff that drops from the last boss, man. Dude, like, just this alone, like, all Blizzard has to do is lock this shit behind difficult content, and you're gonna have people playing this game and feeling good about it. Because this is the kind of transmog shit that you don't take off. You keep this transmog gear on, and you don't swap it back over to your challenge mode gear from Mists of Pandaria, or your fucking tier 3 set. You keep this on to let people know that you're better than they are, and you're a better player, because you have this armor. And everybody knows it. This is what it's fucking about right here. Yeah, these are really fucking good.
This basically is the legendary set. I believe that each one of those constituent pieces is like a legendary that you'll make at the Runeforge.
Yeah,
basically means you can only make one. I think it's about every 2 weeks. And what that means is that slowly, as you build out your character's legendaries, you'll build up this cool new legendary set.
So I have to make the helmet and shoulders first.
ICC and a whole bunch of stuff sort of put into it.
So fucking
it looks
badass,
great.
Man. I
so
cannot
it's
wait.
nice to see that along with that, we've got a two-handed sword data mined as well. I'm not 100% sure where that will come from, but because of that, I do presume that there'll be other weapons that will go along with this Maw set.
Okay, I'll turn
certainly very nice to see, and I really like how in this expansion you'll be trying to get your Covenant set, your Covenant set's tints, your back armor, and then you'll have, you know, for each armor type, so maybe if you've got a few characters between the few different armor types, be working away on this as well. And for me, that just brings back what I mentioned in my reasons why I'm hyped for Shadowlands video, that sort of thing where across multiple alts, you'll kind of just have nice little things to work towards. I think this is another example of that, and that's something that'll be really good for the health of the game. Then next we've got some armor that probably is going to be easier to get, so this stuff is all labeled new player,
yeah,
which
this is the stuff we saw, right?
That it's from Exile's Reach, the new player zone in Shadowlands. Now, all of these new items are pretty cool, and they're inspired by low-level items from vanilla, like the one-handed axe is the Deadmind's Cleaver, the one-handed sword is the Decapitating Sword, or Blood-Cursed Fellblade. You've got the shields, right? There's the Alliance shield, but there's actually some other interesting ones, because, well, for Lordaeron, there's a Scarlet Crusade one, or a Scarlet Brother.
Dude, I'm so excited to see these fucking shields. Like, you're gonna have so many good fucking sets with that, man. It's gonna be amazing.
I guess Scarlet Brotherhood one, if we're going to go with the most recent lore. You should check out the video we did in the Scarlet Brotherhood pamphlet and this sort of conspiracy to
look at this,
basically get rid of Anduin and like put a new Menethil heir in the throne. So I have to wonder if that even ties into that, like those guys existing maybe. And then there's also one for the Silver Hand. So pretty cool with these new shields. a little bit of me is thinking, oh, does this hint to a little bit more development in Lordaeron at some point? Maybe in the pre-patch? Is that something Blizzard will ever touch again? I'm not quite sure, but I can definitely say one thing, like, between the passion internally in our team and what I see from your comments and your views, people really would like to see something go on with Lordaeron, with those classic factions like the Scarlet.
Dude.
So certainly, I'd be interested to see if this is Blizz maybe hinting at that. All right, next.
I feel like that's one of the things that they've never done. Like, we haven't seen a whole lot of Scarlet stuff in the game ever since, like vanilla WoW, really. I mean, you had a little bit of it in Wrath of the Lich King, but besides that, like, I don't know, it's like a little tiny bit in, like, the Legion quest lines. But for the most part, I just feel like it wasn't really...
And
I don't know, man.
Kata and Mob, they redid the...
Yeah.
They redid the shit, right?
Yeah, I guess so, man. Like, it just is so, it's so weird. Like, you should add a new Scarlet Monastery. Lordaeron 9.3 is my prediction. I mean, yeah, I'd love to see some new shit like this, man. Like, I really want to see them, now that we have, like, Classic WoW released, I would love to see Blizzard actually change the world in, like, a more permanent way. And, like, obviously you have, like, the Caverns of Time people, so you can always go back and see it the way that it used to be. But I'd like to see them actually move the game forward and, like, let the story actually change the world. And I think that's the next thing we need to do. Wait, what?
Just tell them what you really mean. You just want to see
Lordaeron back.
Yes, that's what he means. When he says, like, I want to see the kingdom change. The sole thing that he means is he wants us to have Lordaeron. That's it. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants the big city, and he wants that, you know, the big thing. Like, that's it.
Yeah, the big city, Lordaeron, and everything's nice. It'll be great. Yes. That's exactly it. And put the undead, who cares? I'll trade away burning down Teldrassil. Gives a fuck. I mean, I think that was, you know, it is what it is. I'm very glad that happened. I always thought Teldrassil was an annoying city. Darnassus was an annoying city. So, you know, I think that we'd trade that out for Lordaeron. It just makes sense.
The drama topic of the day. It just
makes sense,
come
boys.
on, it's a week of Warcraft news. There's got to be a bit of drama. It's just how it goes. Okay, spell variance is being reintroduced into the game, and it will impact most non-periodic abilities. Right now, it is 5% variance. So whenever you do a spell, whatever damage number comes out, it will vary by 5%. Now, I don't know if that means, you know, sort of plus or minus 2.5% from sort of like a base damage, or if it's plus or minus 5. I believe it's the smaller one. But basically, yeah, you've got this 5% variance in the output of your spells. Now, you might be thinking, what? Is this more RNG? And, I mean, literally it is, but it's also something that you will have had, really, for almost the entire life of the game.
Yeah.
You see, the way things used to work is that your spells resultant damage, one of the variables used for that was the range of weapon damage. I don't mean the range of your weapon, I mean the range of damage that it could do. So,
well, every weapon has this. Like, even now, I'm pretty sure they have this. Like, you look at the numbers between the two weapons, it's like it's a top end and a low end. And that's exactly what it was. And it's the same now. It's a little range of damage. Yeah, well, this has been in the game for a long time. Now, obviously, I don't think that the spell variance is fundamentally a problem. I think that people just use it as a metaphor for Blizzard adding more RNG to the game and changing the game in a way that players don't necessarily, like, aren't really asking for. It's like nobody was asking for the removal of Master Loot. Nobody was asking for, you know, Covenants to be added into the game with exclusive abilities for each one of them. Nobody was asking for these kinds of things. Blizzard just decided we're going to put them in the game anyway. And I think spell variance is another one of those things that just muddies the water and makes it harder to tell, like, what a good player is and a bad player is.
So one of those things where, to be honest, I totally understand how it's a problem on paper, but I also don't really know if anybody really noticed or cared that much, or if it's worth really changing. So, to be honest, I'd like to know what you think in this one. The next up a bit on Conduits. So, we're covering this in the news. We're going to cover this a little bit later in my video about worries for Shadowlands. But yeah, basically with the Conduits, it seems like they're supposed to be permanent items now, so that's a bit interesting.
Yeah,
We've
that's
also seen Blizzard play with ranks from 0 to 14 on beta, although Blizzard haven't actually talked about them. That's
the Conduit ranks sound really cool.
The rank system's in-ish, maybe. It's in the data mining and stuff, but Blizzard haven't actually made a post explaining any of it. Now, I think that all of them are pretty clearly designed to scale, but they're also designed to be strong up front, so it's this situation where they need to be strong up front so you get a conduit and you're excited about it, but then the scaling up the ranks has got to be pretty slow, or else they could get really nutty, especially if you could stack them. And I guess it's weird.
I hope so. That would be fucking awesome.
As much as we enjoyed feeling totally busted by the end of Legion, I mean, come on, remember how insane your character was.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Definitely, the potential for borrowed power to scale and synergize in this expansion is wild, because there's so many...
I feel like that's the way every fucking expansion, is. It's like at the beginning of the expansion, you suck, and then throughout the expansion, you become more and more and more fucking OP. It's like at the end of Wrath, you were OP as fuck, man. You had like full ICC 25-man gear. You were popping off. If you were doing anything, you were just doing crazy fucking damage. That's the way that it should be. Even in Dragon Soul, you had ridiculously high damage. All these like random procs, the legendary weapons, you had the daggers too. It was awesome. The Girth Tlak and all the other Deathwing weapons. It was really, really cool. So I actually don't I don't think that being OP as fuck by the end of the expansion is a bad thing. I think that's kind of cool. And in Legion, it was the same way. Like at the end of Legion, I felt pretty badass. I could, change my stuff up and do what I want. Even in BFA now, I do feel pretty OP right now. And I bet if I had stat amps and everything like that, I would feel even more OP. So I don't think that feeling OP at the end of the expansion is a necessarily bad thing. And I think that you should expect to get reset down to like the original power level whenever there's an expansion reset. It's just that that's never not happened. Like you felt really good in vanilla WoW, BC comes out, and now you suck again. Same in Wrath and every other fucking expansion. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Ian, of course, said that conduits are not going to be how they are in beta right now, referencing them being destroyed and all that stuff in the chat with Preach.
Yeah,
so
that's a really good fucking release.
That's
a massive fucking release.
That said, it is pretty heartening that Blizzard are actually seemingly anyway, taking the feedback on board and trying to make some earnest changes to this one. Again,
I do think Blizzard does deserve a bit of credit with conduits. I think that it does definitely seem that Blizzard has tried to improve the conduit situation and make it better. Persistent collection system coming to Shadowlands Conduit. Okay. Blizzard has unveiled new details for the Shadowlands Conduit system. Originally, Blizzard planned on an inventory-based conduit system, but have since changed it to a persistent collection system. Earning a more powerful version of a conduit that you already have. Let me actually just read the Blizzard post. Starting next week into Shadowlands beta, we will begin introducing a series of updates to the soulbinds system that will add a persistent collection system for conduits. Since the soulbinds system was unveiled in the alpha and discussed in our developer update, we've heard consistent feedback about the shortcomings of an inventory-based destructible version of conduits, and we agree entirely. Alright? While we feel that it's important to be some friction between moving conduits around, the prospect of having to re-earn a given conduit, perhaps by chasing a specific dungeon or a raid boss drop, was not particularly appealing to anyone. However, simply removing destructibility without making other changes would have created an inventory management nightmare, especially for players who enjoy playing multiple specializations. Big, true, and so real. That's obviously good. I'm very glad they're not going to be destructible. No, they are not destructible. Once the system is in place, conduits will work like this. Conduits will continue to be the items that can be earned from a wide variety of in-game content. Dungeons, PvP, raids, reps, world quests, etc. The power of their effects will increase with the item level of the conduit. I like that. I think I like that. I'm not sure, but I think that I like that. Imagine, so here's why I don't think that it's bad. I don't think that it's bad because effectively what this means is the better content and the more difficult content that you do, you get a larger reward for it. That's the way the game should work. The higher item level conduits are going to drop from harder content, and then you get better gear from harder content. That just makes sense. Instead of placing a conduit directly into a soulbind tree, you'll bring it to your sanctum where you can add it to a permanent collection. Okay? There will be more than one source for most conduits to increase flexibility in acquisition and accessibility across different playstyles. Alright. Okay. Earning a more powerful version of a conduit you already have will simply upgrade that conduit in your collection. Okay, that's awesome. So you just basically... This sounds good. Yeah, the essences. It's basically like essences, yeah. At its core, the soulbind system aims to give you the freedom to essentially build your own talent tree for yourself. Each soulbind offers a range of fixed universal traits closely themed to that of soulbind's nature, and there are many open slots throughout the tree that are effectively serving as wildcards, allowing you to insert conduits to customize each soulbind to suit your playstyle and preferences. A given conduit can only be used once per soulbind. Once per soulbind. Oh, you mean like you can only apply the conduit once on the tree, right? So you can't have like the same conduit like 3 times on the tree? I think that's what they're saying. Yes, okay. Though the same conduit can be added into different soulbinds trees without restriction. All right. All right, dude. That's good. That's awesome. I'm very happy about this. This is really good to see. This does not require earning more than 1 copy of the conduit. Once it's in your collection, you can place it as you wish. That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. I always thought honestly, man, I know, you know, it's popular to hate BFA, etc., but I actually thought this essence system was pretty cool. I liked it, and I think having these other options that you can change around all the time is cool. I like the essence thing. Let me go on to the rest of this. If you want to rebuild your soulbind trees, once per week, you'll be able to clear all of their conduits with a separate cooldown per soulbind. So you can only redo your soulbinds once a week? Okay, let's see. Let's look at the rest of this. With a separate cooldown per soulbind. So if you like do the soulbind on General Draven, you don't have to worry about the soulbind on Theotar the Mad Duke, right? So like each one has its own 1-week cooldown. But once you've decided on your desired conduit placements, we want to ensure that the system offers as much flexibility as other existing talent systems. So you'll be able to switch which soulbind is active or redirect the flow of anima through a soulbind's tree, effectively respeccing them. Anytime you visit your sanctum, okay, I see. And if you have a different soulbind per spec or a different active trait path within a given soulbind, that will be saved on a per specialization basis and will automatically change whenever and wherever you change specializations. We're hoping to have an initial version of this system active in next week's beta with further updates and a polished user interface in the weeks to follow. As always, thank you for your feedback. So you have like a 1 week cooldown on respecking, basically. I will say one thing, is that this is undoubtedly an improvement on what previously existed.
All right, so let's change gears over to the lore, and this is actually quite
Spoilers
fun
ahead.
because
all right,
we've got
good.
some alien Night Warrior business. Now,
here we
remember
go.
when the Night Warrior conversation between like them and their husband appeared, and
dude.
a lot of people got a bit salty because they're like, "What? You know, a male Night Warrior in
Silax, sing us to 10 subs. I appreciate that.
What's going on?" And then we were just like, "Well, look at their names and their accents. They're clearly not Night Elves." Well, yes, it's now further confirmed. I mean, it was already confirmed in interviews, but through the actual in-game content, that yes, this is an alien Night Warrior, and the whole thing there is they did the ritual to fight off a very interesting threat, but they were obviously going to die from it. So, and basically, him and his husband decided to like sort of try to share the load of like the Night Warrior bad business. But of course, it just got both of them killed, and that's why they're in Ardenweald.
So they're adding aliens into the game now, just like real life, apparently. That sounds fine. Okay, good.
Anyway, what is kind of cool about this, though, is we know now why he took up the Night Warrior mantle. And basically, the lore here is that a dark god descended on their planet. But
what
like
the fuck?
In the actual impact of that dark god hitting the planet, it pretty much like took out one of their kingdoms or whatever. Now, what is that? Well, I think that's pretty obvious. That is old gods. From what we understand.
Oh, yeah,
and he even describes them as having like too many eyes, too many faces, all that stuff. But from what we understand currently, the old gods are not an Azerothian thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've known that for many years. And basically, they just sort of went out like this big universe parasite, you know, just kind of consuming everything, right? All life, all planets.
And I don't know.
That sort of insatiable hunger to get whatever is in those world souls. Because, of course, if they get Azeroth, what then happens? Well, then, of course, Azeroth... yeah, will end up being corrupted, and I think that's maybe the power source to let the old gods bastards, the Void Lords, in.
We're getting corruption back into the game, boys. It's about time. I'll be honest, as I said, I've always liked the stat amp corruption. I think that shit's really fucking cool. So I'd like to see them do that more in Shadowlands in one way or another, where they kind of give you a way to just like empower a certain stat to where you get more of it or something like that. It just seems cool.
Maybe that's the lore. Who knows? It'll probably change by the time we deal with it, but that's basically the shtick there. Now, the way it works for these guys' society is that basically a coalition of different heroes and groups all rallied behind the Night Warrior, and that is how they defeated this old god. But that their planet was basically just left, like, totally destroyed and messed up, such that it would take many generations for it to be fixed. So basically what I think is really important here, and the key learning essentially is, well, this is a planet that fought off an old god with the power of a loon. We are a planet that did that, of course, with the power of the Titans. So basically, it's kind of just showing us a little bit more of, yeah, you know, the Titans, they're a pretty powerful bunch of dudes, but they're not exactly the be-all, end-all, right? They're not sort of the architects of the overall universe. As
that's what I thought they originally were.
And that's certainly something that Ian, well, literally said in his interview with me. And yeah, just the example of, you know, a loon's bunch can do it too is certainly interesting. Now, if I was really a betting person, I would say that this Elune stuff is going to be an expansion. And I think it's super interesting that Elune has got this kind of like, almost sort of like arcane lightish thing going on in her good side. But then when it turns into Night Warrior mode, like all of this, you know, slightly more evil feeling stuff. I mean, Tyrande is really willing to go pretty darn far to get what she wants. And a lot of it...
yeah, she went emo because they burned down the tree. Like, everybody knows that. I get it. But I don't really think they should make the Elune stuff into a whole fucking expansion. I don't think anybody really... I don't know, like, it's kind of cool, but it's nothing that I'm like super excited or interested in. I just feel like it's like a weird angle. Like, the only question I think a lot of people have with like the Elune stuff is that, like, what is Elune? Is Elune like a Titan? Is it like an idea? Is it a spirit? Is it like something beyond that? Who the fuck knows? And that's one thing that I am always pretty curious about. I have no idea what the fuck that's supposed to be. Let's find out. Yeah, but it's like a whole expansion dedicated to just that. I guess I could see maybe where it would be cool, but I could also see it being kind of boring because it'd be like Night Elf focused. Dude, they've done everything else? Well, they didn't do the Shadowlands. They just fucking invented that shit. Like, they invented WoD. Like, they're like, hey, here you go, here's WoD. They can invent new stuff. I just don't really think that's necessarily the angle that I'd want to see. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Is pretty nasty stuff that if we were to moralize, I don't know really if moralizing forces is a thing to do in Warcraft. I suppose it sort of is, but it sort of is a bit evil feeling. So I think that'll be interesting with Elune. That said, I think we'll get a light expansion. Then I think we'll get an Elune one after that point. But yeah, there you go. Alien Night Warrior, super confirmed from another planet. Yeah. Maybe there's other planets out there, right, with more life on them. Maybe it's not just us. Yes, we had been led to believe that essentially the whole universe had just been scoured by the old gods and by the Burning Legion.
Wait,
but it seems like this is a planet that actually...
Wait, what? I thought the old gods were, like, stuck on Azeroth. So I thought that the idea was that, like, Azeroth was infested with the old gods by the Void Lords, and then the Titans were trying to purify Azeroth. I didn't know that there were more old gods. It's because the Void Lords create them. Holy shit. I don't know. I feel like some of the lore in the game is a little bit overly complex, man. I'll be real with you guys. I think it's a little bit overly complex for me.
Fought off the old gods and was not destroyed by the Burning Legion, and therefore is probably out there right now. I mean, come on, Blizzard kind of just introduced a whole new alien race to us.
Yeah, what happened with that?
You know what, in any normal circumstance, would be a pretty darn noteworthy introduction to the lore. So, there's that. And with that said, let's move on. Alright, we've got a quick PvP update where the first PvP talent slot has been removed. Now, that slot would basically give you various different flavors of getting out of sticky CC situations. And, well, yeah, that's
actually,
gone
I don't
now.
know.
Players, once again, we'll be getting a dedicated
know if that's
PvP
good or not.
trinket. I think that's kind of interesting because it means you'll have your one dedicated PvP trinket plus one other trinket. Now, in terms of how that's balanced out, I've got to imagine it will be a little bit easier than people potentially going into PvP with two super strong, like, raid PvE trinkets. trinkets, at least I'd imagine. Now, I have actually heard that, you know, if Relentless is gone, that this would actually change some arena comps, like Destro Priest Windwalker, which relies
anything
on
that's going to get rid of Destro,
CC
please.
from that to basically avoid dying at its first CC chain that it runs into. So with that not being there, it would kind of change up the comps. So I think that bit's kind of interesting. And certainly I'll say that picking Relentless and then not having to think about it was, in BGs at least for me, kind of nice. But
I've never used a single stat besides Relentless for like the last 2 expansions. Like I always just go Relentless. I never fucking think about it. I'm human, so I already have the you know, every man for himself. I just click that shit instead, and I don't even worry about it, man. And yeah, I've never given a shit about the stats here, but I guess it's probably a good thing considering that they want to have like all of the play kind of. I think in order to make like a good PvP game, there have to be some things that are uniform. And maybe having the different types of like CC breaks made the game harder for Blizzard to balance. It's hard to say.
There you go. Basically, that sort of side of PvP is going back to a slightly more old school direction. I have to wonder if it's just something that will be a bit more simple and a bit more easy to balance for Blizzard. Of course, I'm not a big PvP person, so if you are, do let me know what you think. Then next up, just some coverage of a Morgan Day interview that basically cleared up a little bit of Covenant swapping, where joining another Covenant will be really easy if you want to move away from the one that you're currently at, but rejoining an old Covenant
they've said this a lot
in the past, that will require extra tasks. But there is an important thing
depends on how many extra
in
tasks.
this interview, and that is, I think, extremely importantly, that no progress will be lost with your old Covenant's renown and soulbinds if you are to leave. I think that's really good. And of course, we do know that there will be strong mechanics with an eye to making the whole thing.
See, that's the first step, boys. That's the first step. We're making progress. We're gonna see what happens. Now, Covenants, they're starting to be a little bit more reasonable. McConnell, what do you think about that? Like, you don't lose your progress when you swap? That sounds fucking awesome.
That's a step. It's a step.
It is a step. It's important to recognize a step. Very important. With Covenants, yeah, I've said that many times. I don't think they have. That's the first time I've heard it, at least. Yeah, it's a step. I told you, man, it's just a beta. That's right, and that's why I'm being vocal about it. I'm not going to expect that they'll fix it, but I will push them and hope that they will. That's the whole reason why we're giving feedback, is because it is the beta. That's why we want it to change.
Good bit more alt-friendly.
We want it to
on
change.
Renown, we were actually told that that's not a bar, but a number, and that if you are behind, then the game is going to be offering you new avenues to catch up.
Yeah, like artifact knowledge or whatever.
So it seems like if you are maybe joining a new Covenant and you need to get up its Renown bar really fast, you'll pretty much be able to just sort of chug away at that at a far faster rate than if you were at the bleeding edge of just doing your weekly Renown every single week. And then another thing that was also in that interview that I thought was pretty nice is that there are going to be Covenant-specific dungeon interactions. Now, this is great, I think. I wonder how that would be in more competitive situations, but from the perspective of the game being an RPG, like the one example is Kyrians being able to repair automatons in the Necrotic Wake dungeon, which will give them a party buff. Now, that kind of reminds me of the Nighthold party dungeon, where, depending on your class, you could do different
Court of
things.
Stars.
I thought that was really nice, so it's actually nice to see Blizz sort of experiment with that again. But
I think Court of Stars and dungeons like that, where different classes and professions and races and stuff like that can do different things, is really kind of cool and interesting. And the only real way to balance that, like, you're not going to have it ever like super perfect. And it's not like in Court of Stars, for example, if you didn't have a certain buff, it was over. Like, there's just no way you could clear the dungeon. Like, maybe at like a plus 30 or something like that. But for the experience that like 99% of players would have, that would never even matter to them at all. It was pretty much the same thing no matter what. It was just a bonus at high levels. Well, yeah, I mean, of course at high levels it's harder. But like for an average player, it doesn't really make any sort of like a tangible difference.
Go. That's just some mechanical updates from that Morgan Day interview. And to finish things off, we've got something exciting over for Classic, and that is that Phase 5 is beginning this week.
How about
that? Now, the big news, of course, is Anchorage, and guilds from every server have been posting their material gathering process and progress, and guess what? Most of them are complete. It really does seem like most of the big servers are going to have the war effort done on day one. Now, this still does leave the pretty intimidating Scarab Lord quest line, which is... I mean, it's quite a lot. This includes getting your 200 Silithid Carapace fragments. Now, those can only be collected by, you know, players who are the most up-to-date with the quest chain, and they drop off any Silithids in the region, but of course, that's going to be a very heavily farmed thing. Now, other than that, it will require several raids, plus the Horde and Alliance once again fighting over Azuragos. By the way, you should check out our...
So you don't think we're going to get Scarabord, McConnell?
What?
Do you think we're going to get Scarabord? It's just like you just completely, it's not going to happen?
No, I already told you it's
not going to happen.
Like, Paladini and Tushkit are both going to get it, and we're not. And we're not going to get the fucking Tyrael's Hilt. We're not going to get the pets. Yep. It's over. We lost.
It's the way it goes, man. And you have an army of Spirigs. I don't care, man. It's just like, in a way, guaranteed not getting it, about to be so toxic next week. It's going to be so funny not playing the game. Like, not having to worry about it at all. And I play retail WoW, I'm farming mounts, and all I have to do is read drama posts on r/classic WoW. And it's not going to matter to me. I'm not going to worry about it. It's just going to be funny to just see what's going to happen. Don't give up. Who gives a fuck? It doesn't even matter. Like, it's just, it would be cool to do, but like, maybe I'll like accompany people for parts of the quests. I think that would be cool for people to watch, but that's about it. Yeah, it's just, who gives a shit, man? That's all there is to it. Yeah, I'd rather farm mounts.
Total history of vanilla series, we actually have a full episode on this entire process if you want to see what it was really like back originally, so there's that to watch. But yeah, essentially what I'm saying here is that yes, the material part of the war effort is done.
Classic, exactly. Yeah, it's true.
Day because of just the level of organization, but all bets are still on for how long it's actually going to take for somebody to become the Scarab Lord, because I imagine
I'd say like 3 weeks.
So much more organization this time around,
like 2.5 3 weeks.
Will be really fierce.
Somewhere
of course,
around there.
Yes, after that gong is actually struck, then every other player in the server will have the next 10 hours to complete the final step of the quest to actually become a Scarab Lord themselves.
That's a big one.
Now that's something that actually could be a little bit different than it was in Vanilla, because back in Vanilla, well, the servers were falling over whenever people wanted to go become a Scarab Lord, so it actually seems like now, you know, we've got better servers, so hopefully in that 10-hour period, everybody who wants to log in and actually make their way over there, they will actually be able to.
Yeah,
World servers will actually be up. Now, if you do want like an interesting example of seeing an entire server working together, you can see that over for Incendious. I mean, here's a look at their spreadsheet. And it's just nice to see things like that happening in the community, and it's something that's just,
holy fuck, dude.
It is just unique to how Classic is, I guess, as opposed
to
Live.
Holy fuck, man.
Now, of course,
that is like, people take this game so seriously. Like, I've never experienced anything that's like this serious, like beyond Classic WoW. And like, I guess like more people are more serious about retail WoW, but it's like, it's disproportionately serious. So it's like people that are like mathing out like the most optimum way to clear Molten Core. It's like, I don't know, I feel like you're at a certain point, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's not like you're not really getting any farther, you're just doing the same exact thing. And I don't know, like the amount of like time and preparation put into doing this whenever it's like pretty easy to begin with is kind of crazy.
Happening in the community.
Why not? They have fun. Who cares? I guess they have fun. It's just not fun to me.
How Classic is, I guess, as opposed to Live. Now, of course, Phase 5 is actually a lot more than just that, because really when people think about Vanilla, they're thinking about a period of time that really does align with patch 1.10. So relics are in. That means that paladins and druids won't have their vestigial slot. There's, of course, the big re-itemization of dungeon loot tables, which brings a lot more player power to those, well,
there's no content left, you gotta make some.
There's
I guess so.
Set 2 armor sets coming in, plus the quest chains. There's a whole range of new blues, things like the Executioner coming in, so that's also going to be pretty cool. And really,
listen, there's some defensive Classic Andes in chat. You guys are mad that I'm calling you out for spending fucking 4 hours trying to theory craft and perfect out the best way to clear Molten Core or do this easy fucking raid. Yeah, it's stupid to me. Like, you can do whatever you want, okay? Like, I don't care. I think mount farming is stupid too. That's fine. But like, yeah, I look at that, I think it looks fucking ridiculous. Like, the game's completely solved. Everything's known. Like, it's not hard at all. Like, it's just, you're like fucking like over preparing for something that's easy. It's like, imagine having a fucking a test on, you know, the times table for multiplication, and you spend 3 years preparing for it. It sounds kind of dumb.
Just more blues and purples. Basically, right, this is WoW Classic sort of turning into that version of vanilla that most people remember the most.
Exactly.
That's really when WoW was kind of
I started
making
in phase
a lot
5.
of its headlines and really
like in vanilla WoW, effectively.
initial sort of growth curve.
Like right at the beginning,
so
like right as phase 6
happened. Big news
happened.
happening with Classic, and really with that, it's just going to be what next, and that's kind of going to be it. Of course, we are expecting TBC based on the survey that we got a good few months ago. Now
I think that we'll get TBC
to be a thing, which itself is, I think, pretty darn exciting. So really, that's it for the news. There is a lot going on in Shadowlands. A lot soon to be going down in Classic, which is pretty exciting. I can't wait to see the stories that come out of that. And to finish things off, of course, if you want to get things like Tier 0, get your slice of Ireland as well with some fun lore in the back. You want to get your Warlock class pin, of course, and there is a sticker to go along with these guys as well. Then Patreon is the place, and of course, you will very soon be seeing some of the fruits of that when we do our next job posting, and that's going to be something that will really just lead to, well, suffice to say, a lot more time for me to record things, which hopefully will mean more content for everyone to watch. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching today's video, and I will see you next time.
Okay, so here's how I look at Classic, and these people are dumb. It's just like speedrunning. Yeah, if you like doing that, that's fine. I think it's dumb. You know, like this is dumb. Like, I don't know really what to say. It's like, yeah, I think somebody put in chat, it's an even better analogy. It's like taking a test that you already know the answers to. Yeah, I mean, come on. And like over preparing for that. It's insane. Like, yeah, I get that some people like it. It's fine with me. Like, you do whatever you want to do. But I couldn't consider that entertaining or interesting to me for very long, man. And I guess that's people's different preference.
Oh, God, dude.
What?
Man, it's starting to sound like, you know, when people, like, old people are like, they're like, fucking, man, why would you, watch somebody play a video game when you could just play the video game yourself, man? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get this whole streaming thing. Like, why would you watch
what with like Classic WoW and like speedrunning?
You know what they say.
I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous.